how would you, what would you do with the head?
That must have been taken from reading about these magazines and everything. Taking the flesh off like a headhunter.
The gal there behind the counter is blonde, dirty blonde. She's wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs on her hand. And, of course, we just got done doing the Eileen Wuornos case, so I'm like, oh. I'm overhearing her conversation with the guy in front of me, and she's like, and something was said to the fact of, I haven't watched that documentary yet. Again, thinking, I got Eileen Wuornos on the brain because they just came out with a new Netflix series on her. So I get up there, I'm like, oh, yeah, you look, we just did a podcast on Eileen Wuornos. You look just like her. She's dead serious, looks at me and says, I'm not Eileen. My name's not Eileen. Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just saying, you look like her. The famous serial killer? I'm not a serial killer. I'm like, oh my I'm like, yeah. Okay. Well, anyway,
Happy Halloween.
There's a famous serial killer named Eileen Wuornos who, she gets arrested and wears orange jumpsuit. And anyway, I'm just saying you look just like her. Just in case you want to go look it up.
She's going to go home and she's going to Google that and she's going to go, that bitch.
I know. I know. She'll be like, so disappointed. And first thing she's going to see is Eileen's teeth and her
face.
Hair and her, whatever. And I was just like, the guy behind me is kind of chuckling because of this whole interaction. I'm like, I'm not saying you are a serial killer. I'm not saying your name is Eileen. And she just was. Maybe she just came to work dressed normally. I don't know. Maybe she just got out of the clinic.
No, that's what that was their costumes. So one of the gals.
Well, obviously. But
I'm going to explain the picture that I saw, that one of them during the day had on a cop's uniform.
Okay.
And then everybody else had on the jumpsuits.
She was just completely it went way over the top of her head that I said she looked spitting image of Eileen. And it was the hair and obviously the orange suit, but she just was like, my name's not Eileen.
Oh boy.
I know.
Everybody's got to be literal.
Anyway, it was funny.
Oh, God. So Marissa mentioned before we started the podcast, before you got here, that we have not introduced ourselves for quite some time.
You're right.
There might be some new listeners. May not know who we are.
So my name is Mike.
I'm Jamie.
I'm Marissa.
And this is the Jury Dropouts, which I hope they know that because if they listened to it, they clicked on it, they saw the title.
Sure.
So anyways, here we are. And we're going to jump into it. And today is Ed Gein.
Right. And in this, I wanted to do Ed Gein as well as some of our listeners because of the new Netflix series.
Yes.
Which was done by, and I should have looked up his name before I mentioned it, but the guy who produces these, he kind of has a tendency to veer away from realism when he's doing these series. Sorry, it's a series. It's not a documentary.
And I think they probably have to. What's that?
Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan.
Yeah, so
they are the main creators.
Yeah, so he's done the two brothers, the Menendez brothers. Because Monsters is the main title of their series that they do. So they featured the Menendez brothers, and then they featured, what was the first one they did?
Jeffrey Dahmer.
So I saw it on there, and I tried to watch it, and for whatever reason,
you couldn't get through it, huh?
I struggled. And I think I struggled as soon as I heard
The voice.
the voice of Ed Gein, played by whatever actor it was. I didn't pay any attention to that.
Charlie, is it human?
Yeah,
Human? Charlie.
Charlie something.
And I don't know, I just couldn't get past the way he talked, because I had a feeling that was probably a somewhat of an inaccurate voice. And it turns out it was completely inaccurate. But I don't know. I couldn't get into it. And I'm actually glad that we're going to talk about it tonight. I didn't watch it, so I can't make comparisons. I don't know if you watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Marissa, did you watch the whole thing?
I didn't finish it.
Okay,
No.
so
Yeah.
so maybe you can make comparisons
Sure.
as we go through it.
To start off, I mean, the premise of it is it's an artistic perspective of Ed Gein's story. It definitely has an artistic flair to it. There's maybe some factual pieces to it, but in the long run, it's entertainment.
Sure. And I'm sure they touched on the main
It's
points.
based on his life, but it's not probably a lot of true hardcore facts. I mean, there's a few probably, but just as people going into it know that it's entertainment, it's fiction, and it was, to me, it was entertaining, but I understood the facets of it, because it was hard to follow. Like, so my daughter watched it. She's like, this is I'm trying to understand it. And I said, yeah, it's kind of hard to follow, because what it does is it almost, to my perspective, is he's trying to portray the way he's thinking, because he was diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Sure.
And so a lot of the scenes I feel like the director was trying to portray what Ed Gein might have been thinking in his mind, or what he was seeing in his mind. And it wasn't really real. It was just kind of his thinking,
Sure.
what was real and what wasn't.
And for the most part on documentaries, and even, so I listened to a book that was written about Ed Gein, and I didn't write down the author, and I kind of feel bad about that. I'd have to look it up later on. But a lot of the information I got, probably 75%, come from that book. And this particular author is known as like one of the leading experts on Ed Gein. And I was interested, actually right from the get-go, because he did a good job of talking about where Ed came from. And he spent a good portion of the beginning of that book talking about Ed's parents. Mm-hmm. And I think that makes sense. So I was going to actually start off with some of that. And I don't know if the documentary did or not. So,
well, the series didn't. But then I watched the actual documentary of the lost tapes of Ed Gein, where it actually had his recordings of his voice, and I watched that too. And they actually showed some of the police reports, so that was more accurate. But yeah, I mean, let's get into Ed and what his background was. And
sure. So Ed's parents were George and Augusta, and George and Augusta were actually two very, very different people, and they come from two very different backgrounds. So George, at a young age, lost his parents and his sister. So basically his entire family. Mm-hmm. They had left in their wagon. There had been some heavy rains, and there were some flash floods going on. And so his parents and his sister left in the wagon. George stayed home by himself, and his folks and his sister end up getting washed away in this flash flood.
yeah,
And so he ends up being adopted by his grandparents and raised, basically, they refer to it as an orphan, but raised by his grandparents. And because his folks and his sister were washed away, he really didn't grow up with a big family. And so far as his personality goes, he was kind of kept to himself. He wasn't a very outspoken type of a person. And really, you would maybe even say that he had a pretty weak personality. Now, Augusta, on the other hand, which would be Ed's mom, was raised different. So she was raised in a very, very strict Lutheran family, and a large family to boot. And they were so strict that her brothers never even married, because in their viewpoint, marriage was for life. You don't get divorced. And sex was mainly for procreation. And that was pretty much it. So she was also very, very strong-headed, very confident in herself. And so
She was probably other things too.
yes. She was Rip. So, and I think what maybe attracted those two together so far is George and Augusta was very strong-willed, very confident, and very imposing. George, on the other hand, was weak, kind of weak-minded.
Opposites attract.
Yes. And so I think that's probably what happened.
Yeah.
He was looking for somebody really strong, and she wanted somebody that she could impose her will on.
And then he turned out to be an alcoholic.
He did. And probably because of their marriage. So they initially, they got married and they lived in La Crosse. And George had a hard time holding onto a job. And that really annoyed Augusta, that he couldn't maintain employment anywhere. So she decided that the only way that he was going to be able to hold down a job is he would just have to work for himself. And so they had bought a business. Now, before they bought a business, they actually had their first child, and the first child was Henry. Mm-hmm. Once again, she didn't want to have Henry, she only had Henry just to procreate, basically, and she just wanted a child, somebody that could maybe help her out. Mm-hmm. Because she was strong-willed, she kind of did everything herself anyway, because she saw her husband is weak and lazy, and she would let him know it. And he also liked to spend most of their earnings on booze. So he would go get drunk, he would come home from the bar, they would get into fights, and he was actually violent towards them. It's about probably the only time he really opened his mouth to her is when he'd been drinking, is the way that I take it.
Liquid courage.
Yes. So they have this store. Initially, when they bought the store, actually George was listed as the owner of the store. Mm-hmm. But within 2 years, that changed. Then Augusta was listed as the owner, and George was listed as nothing more than a clerk. So she would run the store, and George would basically stock shelves and deal with freight. Mm-hmm. So she would kind of run the whole thing. So this goes on for a while. She decides she wants another child, but she really wanted a girl. So she had to force herself to once again have sex with George, which sickened her. And then they had Ed. And she was disappointed. Mm-hmm. However, because of her strong religious views, she thought, well, if this is the cards that God is going to deal me, then I'm just going to have to do the best I can. But she wanted to raise George different because she really wasn't close to Henry, their firstborn. And obviously she had a problem with George, but she wasn't going to divorce him because, once again, marriage is for life. So she kind of takes Ed under her wing, I guess you could say. That was the one that she was going to mold herself. And even though, she's still a strong-willed person and a Rip. So she's still pretty hard on the kids. But she's going to raise them the way that she wants. And the way she wants is, one, that everything, they're going to go through the Bible. They're going to read it and they're going to live it. That's just the way life is. She's also grown to kind of really not only not like men, but she really don't like women. She thinks that most women are harlots. Jezebels. So she teaches her kids just that. And actually, I think that she intended for her kids to probably stay single their whole lives, because in her eyes, no woman was any good.
Right. And I think they pretty much didn't they? Because George dies.
Yeah, George died in 1940.
Oh, he was how old though?
He
wasn't that old. So George dies
66.
66.
And from what I read or saw, the boys still lived with them.
Yeah.
And they were 30, almost 40? Is that right?
Yeah.
Henry was almost 40, wasn't he?
Yes, he died when he was like
43.
43, yeah. But
and they still lived with their parents.
Yeah.
And that's when I saw that the boys then kind of helped take over the business.
Sure. Now, I think Ed in the documentary was kind of portrayed as maybe slow and dumb. Is that
Yeah.
Is that a fact?
And it's a series. I want to be clear on that because it's not, yeah.
But the fact is, he actually wasn't really stupid. He wasn't a dumb kid. He loved to read. He read a lot. I think he went through the 8th grade. And they did, according to like his teacher, said that he was a pretty average student. And later on in life, they actually tested his IQ and all that, after he was ultimately arrested. And they determined that he was normal, maybe on the low side of normal. Probably high in some areas, low in others. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, normal. He wasn't an idiot. He had a good vocabulary. Like I said, he loved to read, and he read a lot. He would read the Bible with his mom, and then he was into various other types of magazines, covering various topics, but most of those topics were pretty dark.
Yeah.
But anyways, they did go through their childhood, and they witnessed a lot of abuse. So Dad, of course, was going to the bar. He was still heavily drinking, probably up until the time of his death. And he would come home, and he was abusive both to the kids and to Mom, which really kind of reinforced what she'd been telling her kids anyway.
Right.
That maybe men were beasts or aggressive. And of course, they probably witnessed their mom just completely trash talking their dad.
Sure.
Calling him about every name in the book. And, really it almost sounded like, maybe he somewhat deserved it. But at the same time, he's a weak-minded person. And he comes home to just a total rip.
Yeah.
And so in his mind, that was probably how he escaped.
Well, so Henry actually ends up dating somebody, right?
No.
I thought he did.
No. See, they actually brought that up in the documentary.
I'm reading it on this Wikipedia thing.
Yeah, he did. That's what I read. And so now I want to clarify again. Your series versus documentary, because the series they did in some aspect, but in the actual documentary, I think they did too. They said that because they took over after George died, they took over the business. He kind of started separating himself from the two of them.
Well, he did separate himself
Ed
from his mom and
Augusta,
yep.
And he did start dating somebody,
See,
and his mom didn't approve of her.
Because she was a divorced mother of two.
He did.
Okay, so
I'm almost certain of it because, yeah.
See, and this is where
because ultimately, it kind of led to because Henry was seeing the psychological abuse that Augusta was doing to Ed, and was trying to get Ed to move out and get away from Augusta.
Well, he was trying to put a bit of a wedge between Ed.
But Ed,
and Ed's
or
mom.
Henry was dating a married or divorced, or she had children. Yeah,
This says she had 2 kids.
yeah.
Okay, and see I couldn't find any of that in my research, and even on the book that I read, they never mentioned anything about Henry having any sort of relations whatsoever with a woman. He did, though, and this is, it's tough when you're doing research on something that occurred in the 50s, and I think that's probably, we're talking 40s and 50s from so long ago, because it's not like they had internet back then and things could be posted online. So a lot of it's going to be word of mouth. And some of it might be from some news articles. But when you talk about personal life, a lot of that is probably going to be word of mouth. So that's probably where it's tough for us when we want to talk about something, because you're reading something different than I read. But I would concede that.
Just because yours wasn't mentioned doesn't mean it didn't happen.
No,
so
and
to
that's
speak,
true. Yeah, and that's why I would concede that.
They just didn't focus on it.
Yeah.
Whereas this documentary, because they did a lot of interviews with Ed, and I think that's probably where this is coming from.
It could have.
And so, they talked, like they really talked to him a lot.
Yeah, and Augusta definitely would have objected to either one of them having any sort of relationship with a woman. As a matter of fact, she didn't even like the fact that they would have friends that were boys. Mm-hmm. Because when Ed was growing up and he was in school, and he struggled throughout school with just trying to fit in. He was a little bit odd. They actually referred to him as a little bit girlish. And they would tease him about things like with his eye, he had some sort of a growth on his eyelid that caused it to sag a little bit. And they make fun of him for that. So he really did struggle to fit in. He was a little bit odd, probably because he was a mama's boy. Mm-hmm. But when he would try and make friends, and he would come home and tell his mom would think of an excuse on why he shouldn't hang out with that boy. Like they had bad parents, or they had bad siblings, or there was something about him that was bad that made them not good enough.
Yeah. She just wanted to keep him isolated.
Sure. To herself.
She really was a people hater. She was the epitome of a people hater, and didn't want her boys associating with really anybody.
No, and I think she let it be known that she did not like people.
Right.
In town, and she probably had no friends. Matter of fact, I know she didn't have any friends.
Yeah.
But that's what caused the friction between Henry and Ed. Mm-hmm. Was Henry went to Ed and said, "Hey, basically, I'm a little bit concerned about the relationship you're having with Mom. Mom's maybe a dangerous person so far as how she treats the boys."
Yeah.
And restricts them from society.
Well, because this is back where I'm getting from, because, he started having a relationship with this woman. He went to Ed and said, "Look, I've got this relationship, and I think we're going to be getting married, and we're going to be moving, and I'm not going to be around here anymore. And so, because I'm not going to be around, I'm giving you some advice here. You need to step away from Mom, because, you're 30-some years old now, and you need to get away from Mom. You need to have your own life." And so that wasn't going to go over very well.
No, and I think he underestimated how Ed felt about his mom. Mm-hmm. Because now it probably created some sort of a resentment that he had for Henry.
Yeah. So we don't really know. So ultimately Henry dies.
He does. So they go out to burn some marsh. And they kind of split up. The fire is starting to move. Ed's trying to get the thing put out before apparently it gets to some cedars or some pine trees or something like that. He gets the fire put out, and then he claims he can't find George. Mm-hmm. And so ultimately, Henry.
Yeah.
So ultimately, he goes to town. He puts together a group of people to help search. Some of those people included law enforcement. But strangely enough, when he brings that search party to the property to go find Henry, the first place he takes them to is right where Henry's at.
Yeah.
And they notice something odd, and that is that Henry is lying in a patch of ground that's completely burnt. However, Henry has no fire damage to his body or his clothing. He's got some ash on him, but no burn marks, no damage to the clothes. And they also noticed some bruising to his head.
Yeah, he had a head wound, didn't he?
He did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they also, because they kind of knew Ed, who was seen as he was seen as odd, but for the most part, pretty quiet, soft-spoken. The townspeople actually kind of liked him. They saw him as a dependable person that was good help, because by this time they also did some odd jobs, and they would go help out their neighbors.
Yeah, and I think he was known as the neighborhood babysitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So,
he actually watched
he was
kids.
He was reliable, and they trusted him with their kids.
So, the thought of maybe him killing his brother probably never even entered into their mind. As a matter of fact, if somebody had brought it up, they probably would have thought it was laughable.
Right.
That somebody like Ed do that?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Right. Like, because, I don't think he had, I honestly don't think he had like this malicious intent for anything. I think if he did kill him, it was because of his mental illness.
We'll be right back.
Not only are many trying to remove us from our constitutionally limited Judeo-Christian ethos republic, more seem to be forgetting our Judeo-Christian Constitutionalist foundations. Not here at Constitutionalist. We talk about all these things. The past, the present, the future. Biblical community, Judeo-Christian ethos, the whole Bible, biblical community, not worldly communism. And there is a big difference. Join us, Constitutionalists.
Well, I think that if he did, and they suspect that he did, that he probably felt like he was protecting his mother.
Yeah. When they interviewed him, he has no, like, he's genuine and he has no recollection of how Henry died. Like, in his mind, Henry, like, it is what he reported to the authorities. Like, Henry's missing. That's what he reports in his mind. Like, he doesn't admit to anything. When they do his interviews, like, he matter-of-factly explains how he murdered those two women. He matter-of-factly explains how he does his grave robbing, what he does. Like, there's no qualms about it. He's not trying to lie or anything. When it comes to Henry, he has no clue. Like, he does not remember killing Henry. He does not admit to killing Henry. So whether it's part of his mind that's blocking it out, but we still don't know if he actually did it or not.
Well, so now that Henry's dead, George has already passed away.
Yeah.
So now it's just Ed and Augusta. Just mom and son.
For a short time.
For a short time. So Augusta one day ends up having a stroke. And she says she's not feeling well. Ed takes her to the hospital. She's almost too weak to get out of the car. She goes in. Sure enough, they diagnose her as having the stroke. She's in the hospital for a short period of time, and Ed stays with her the whole time. She's ultimately released. So Ed takes her home, helps her into the house, puts her in bed, and stays by her side. And she then basically is now telling Ed what needs to be done. Then he goes out and does it. And this goes on for a while until she starts to get her strength back to where she can get out of bed. So, anyways, she gets out of bed. She can kind of move around. And they need to go get hay for some of their livestock. So they go to a neighbor's house. I think it was a Smith.
Yes.
And when they get there, Mr. Smith is whipping the shit out of a dog. And he has a female that lives with him, but they're not married. And of course, Augusta, she just, that sickens her. And that's the one thing she really hates is unmarried couples residing or having relationships, within the same house. So the girlfriend comes out, is yelling at Mr. Smith, who's whipping the shit out of this dog. At the same time, Augusta is tongue lashing probably both of them about their relationship and not being married. And shortly after that, she has another stroke. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that was the cause of it. I think pretty much for her whole life, she's pissed off all the time. I don't know that she's ever really happy.
Yeah.
But so she has the second stroke. Only this time, it kills her.
Yep.
And so now Ed is by himself. Now, something else that I thought was interesting when I'm reading about the early life, besides the fact that she's a total rip and, really into, religion and control and just the way she is, she's also a big neat freak. So the house is spotless, but also completely not like upgraded. There's no electricity, there's no plumbing, there's no nothing. But one thing it is extremely clean and well kept, along with the rest of the farm. But then she dies. And now it's just Ed by himself because his dad's gone, his brother's gone, now his mom's gone. Mm-hmm. And Ed really doesn't have any friends. I mean, he does go to town. Every once in a while, he goes to the tavern, stop at the store. He does help people. There are townspeople that say that, yeah, if you ask Ed for help, he never says no, and he rushes right over. And I think I heard one person, I don't know if I heard it or read it, that they said that if you paid Ed to do $1 worth of work, he would give you $1.50's worth in exchange. Mm-hmm. And it was never screwed up. So even though they thought he was kind of an odd duck, for the most part, they kind of liked him because he's just a soft-spoken, meek.
Hard worker. Yeah. So
harmless.
Mm-hmm. So one part of the series, the Netflix series that they kind of got wrong, was that she died at home and he left her dead body there. Or he left, her dead body in the room, which didn't happen.
No, they actually had a funeral. And here would be the difference between the funeral for George, Henry, and for Augusta. The obituaries for the other two were pretty standard. Talked a little bit about their life. They were a good brother, a good father, and they left these people behind, and they were preceded by death, by whoever. When it come to hers, it was pretty short. This is who she is. This is where she died, and that's pretty much it. And they say that at the funeral, the only people that showed up were her family and Ed. Mm-hmm. No townspeople, no friends, because, well, she didn't like anybody, and of course they're not going to like her back.
Yeah.
So anyways, where were we? So yeah.
Well, so she dies, and we're just making the difference of the contrast of the series versus real life, because ultimately kind of that's what we want to talk about is the difference in what they portrayed in this show and what really happened. But he did, so they have a funeral, she's buried, she's in the cemetery. She's actually in the cemetery for a while, and he goes and visits her gravesite every night, every day for a while.
Sure, and he has a belief that if he wishes on it hard enough, that it might be possible that he can raise her from the dead. Mm-hmm. So it's just I don't know where he came up with that idea, but that's just how he felt. And I think that's one of the things that he told law enforcement, maybe later on in his interviews. I don't know, but
yeah.
So yeah, he would visit her probably when he could.
Yeah. Well, and so it is one of the serial killers that, whether he's considered a serial killer or not, maybe. But part of his story was adapted to influence some of the more recent horror movies. And I say recent, but according to when this happened to later on. But Psycho is one of them, the movie Psycho. Mm-hmm. So in Psycho, they portray the mother as maybe the same thing. It's been a while since I've watched that movie, but the mother either dies and he keeps her in the room, or he goes and brings the mother's body back into the house, which that didn't happen either. Like
no.
he never dug Augusta's body back up and brought her back in the house.
No, I think what he does is worse. It
Right.
probably would have been better if he would have just dug up his mom and brought her back to the house.
Yeah. I mean, because ultimately that's what he was known for, was grave robbing and taking their body parts. But he never actually dug up his mom and brought her back. He said he couldn't do it. So there was some aspect of morality or consciousness that told him that it's not something he should do, because she would disapprove of it, is what he said. She would disapprove of it.
So after his mom dies, some things begin to change for Ed a little bit. First, he doesn't take care of the property. He kind of gives up on life.
Oops.
And so the people in town notice that the farm starts to kind of go downhill. It's not being taken care of. The grass isn't being mowed. Weeds are growing up everywhere. The equipment's beginning to rust in front of the barn. And the house looks dilapidated. Mm-hmm. Almost abandoned, really. And Ed, although he does go to town once in a while, for the most part, he kind of keeps to himself. He also kind of has I don't know if he daydreams about it, but he begins to wonder what it would be like to be a woman. And actually, according to the book that I read, it was maybe something that he'd even thought about it as a child, because he'd really never seen woman parts other than maybe some books that he'd had that would maybe show him what the difference between female and male genitalia.
So it's interesting you say that, because when they interview him, mm-hmm. he denies that.
Really?
Yeah. He denies ever wanting to be a woman.
He denied a lot of things in his interviews, though, too.
But, I mean, I just want to be, like, I don't know. I think it's very difficult, because in the documentary, a lot of people that were interviewed or that were on this documentary, they were like, Ed thought this, and Ed was wanted to become his mother, or Ed wanted to do this. But in listening to his interviews, he did not say any of that. And it makes you wonder if that's what people's adaptation of their own thinking is. Not really what it's like, okay, this is what I think Ed wanted versus what he really did. So it was taking that mindset when I was watching it to say, okay, that's how you think Ed was thinking, but that's maybe not really how he was thinking.
Well, I wonder if it's maybe some information that come from his psychological evaluation, that he had to have like 30 days worth of evaluation before the trial.
Because it said he didn't actually admit to ever wanting to be a girl.
I don't know. And the only... So something that gets interesting with Ed...
Let's just put it this way. that's what the perception is
Sure.
of Ed. Okay, whether it really was
Sure.
what he thought, we don't know because
Sure.
he never admitted to it. So I think we can take some of that information and people can kind of assume, but let's take it with a grain of salt. Maybe let's say, okay,
Sure.
okay, he does. I don't know.
So we can probably get to kind of what gets him busted. So a couple of people in town come up missing, and actually they come up missing years apart. The first one that actually, there was a couple of hunters that come up missing first. And that was a Victor Travis and a Ray Burgess. So I don't know if this was brought up in the movie at all, but there was some suspicion
I can't remember.
that maybe Ed was involved. So what it was is these two hunters are having a few drinks in a tavern. They're getting ready to go hunting, and they're going to hunt at this Thompson property, and this Thompson property is next to Ed's. So they have their drinks, they leave the bar, and they're never seen from again. So, and I had seen in different places where they were talking about, well, maybe Ed had something to do with it. However, I did some additional digging and found out that's probably completely written off by law enforcement for good reason. One that I had to do some digging to find a little bit was this Victor Travis had just met this Ray Burgess, like literally the week before. And this Ray Burgess was in some sort of I think they were in a bar, and he was flashing all of this money, and they became acquaintances, and they're going to go hunting. Now, Travis's family had actually told him, maybe stay away from this Ray. You don't know him. He's a stranger. You probably shouldn't be going on any sort of a hunting trip with him. But he decides he's going to go anyway. So they do. They go to this bar. They have a few drinks, and then they leave in this Ray Burgess's car to go to the Thompsons to go hunting. Now, somebody at the bar had actually written down, or actually it wasn't at the bar, it was at the Thompsons. It was the wife wrote down the plate number from this Ray Burgess's car, and it didn't even come back to the Ray Burgess. It actually come back to somebody that had died 2 years prior to that. So they tried to find this Ray Burgess. They couldn't find any information on him at all, anywhere. So the only thing they were left with is they did find Travis's hunting rifle, his clothes, and his hunting dog on the Thompson property. But other than that, they never found him, and they never found this Ray. So that's probably why law enforcement kind of wrote that one off, and they really didn't follow up with any investigation so far as the involvement of Ed. But it was rumored that maybe Ed had something to do with it, after he was
after
arrested.
The fact, in
Sure.
hindsight. Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, I really feel like Ed's approach to the murder, who he murdered, was Bernice. Is it Bernice?
Bernice was the second one that he murdered, yeah.
Okay.
The first one was Mary Hogan.
Okay.
So, and he did
Let's
have
talk about her.
Yeah, so he had a fascination with Mary Hogan. Now, Mary Hogan owned a local tavern where she worked. And she was a pretty foul-mouthed lady, a bigger gal, 200 pounds or something like that. But Ed had a fascination with her, and I think maybe the fascination was she was the polar opposite of his mom, because she was foul-mouthed and just kind of a rude and nasty person. However, the one thing they did have in common is they were probably strong-willed. So he would visit the local tavern and talk to Mary Hogan, I suppose whenever he could. I don't know how frequent, but he did like to go in and talk to her. Well, one day, the townspeople found the tavern. I don't know if it was, they went in there and they didn't see her. And then they found blood, and they found a .32 caliber casing left on the floor. And it looked like something had been dragged out of the bar because there was like a bloody drag mark.
Yeah, like you're dragging a deer across the ground.
And they searched, and they never did find her. And I think it went on, I think even the next year, there were still articles, where's Mary Hogan?
It was Mary Hogan the one that he joked about to the friends in town that, I got her over in the barn. Or was that Bernice?
That was Bernice.
Okay.
However, he did joke occasionally about Mary Hogan as well.
Yeah. I mean, he was quite literally matter of fact about things. And I think that's how, again, I have a real difficulty with kind of what people think or assume why Ed did this and what really happened, because I feel like in Ed's mind, he was, because of this mental illness and he had schizophrenia, I really feel like he was very matter of fact. They thought he was joking. And he was like, no, I have her in my barn, and just so blunt about it that they assumed he was joking. But I feel like he approached it with very clinical, just like he doesn't really remember killing them.
I don't know.
No, he doesn't remember.
Well,
he doesn't remember killing them. And I feel like he took the approach of like, well, you kill a deer, you skin it, you cut it up for meat, you use all the body parts. That's, I feel like, what he was doing. Like, he kind of pictured it as, well, I got this dead carcass, so I guess I'm gonna put it to good use. I don't really know that he distinguished the difference between a dead human versus a dead deer. Like, that's the mindset I get from him when listening to him.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I guess one of the things that he had told some of the people in town at one point, he liked to squirrel hunt, but he would never deer hunt. And he told people that he didn't deer hunt because he was squeamish around blood. And so that was probably another reason that the people really never considered Ed, because they thought, well, I mean, he doesn't like blood. He'll hunt squirrels, but he won't even hunt deer because he doesn't want to have to gut it out and be around all that blood and, the nasty part of hunting.
Yeah. And I think that the schizophrenia part of him probably is what took over when he was doing this. I don't truly, he to this day does not recall. Like, he can see it after the fact and he can say what he did after the fact, like what he did with the bodies, but the actual killing part, he doesn't have a clue.
So I guess that was in 1954. And then in 1957, that's when that Bernice Wooden come up missing. So
was she the store owner?
She was.
Yeah. The hardware store owner or the feed, whatever it was. Yeah.
So she had been divorced. And apparently Ed had been kind of coming into the store and bugging her. And I think at one time he even asked her out, I don't know if he'd say on a date, but to go somewhere.
Yeah. And that's the part too that it wasn't actually true either.
Well, that come from her son. Because
I'm going to disagree with you, but go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So according to, and this come from the book that I read, is another townsperson went to the store and the store was locked up. So, and this was opening day of hunting season. So he didn't think nothing of it. He did think it was odd. And he'd also seen they have like a panel delivery truck. And he had seen this panel delivery truck leave. And he didn't know if maybe Bernice had to go make a delivery. Who knows what's going on. But he didn't think much of it. Well, later on that day, somebody mentioned that to her son that, hey, the store's locked up. She must have closed early. And her son said, well, no, she told me she was going to be open all day. So he goes and he checks, sure enough, the store is locked. Mm-hmm. So he goes home, he gets the key, he comes back, unlocks the door, and he sees some blood splatter on the floor, and his mom's not there. So he calls law enforcement. And when law enforcement arrived, the first thing he said is, I know who did this, it was Ed. And what he told law enforcement is, one, Ed had been kind of hanging around and bothering his mom. And his mom would put up with it because Ed was just kind of the local person in town, was a little bit weird. And she wasn't going to be rude and tell him to get out of here. But, she really didn't like him. Mm-hmm. But they had also found a receipt that Ed was the last customer. He'd come in and purchased some antifreeze. Mm-hmm. But I think he was also the person that told law enforcement that while he was in bugging his mom, like I said, it wasn't necessarily to go out on a date, but it was to go somewhere, and I can't remember where it was.
No, it was what happened, because it talks about it in, like, it's his actual, like, he's actually answering in his voice, like in his videotapes in this interview, audio tapes, I should say. Something about how, was she newly divorced? Or widowed?
She was divorced.
So they were talking about the ice skating rink, and she was talking about going to the ice skating rink, or he asked her, do you ever go to the ice skating rink? And she says, well, no, isn't that something that couples do? And he made some comment like, well, we could go together, or not insinuating a date, just saying, well, you could go with anybody. You could go with me to the ice skating rink. Not.
That's what I mean. I don't.
It wasn't a date, and he explains.
And I wasn't saying that it was a date.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying that.
Because he explains, like, well, it was a joke. I mean, I wasn't trying to go out with her, and I wasn't hitting on her. It was a joke, and he explains this in this interview, and I'm like, okay, so people are misunderstanding what, either she herself misunderstood what he was saying, or people are understanding with her telling the story of what he said. So I just feel like all along the line he was misunderstood. Now, does that excuse him for killing somebody? No. But again, I think this man is ill and he's very misunderstood.
Mm-hmm. Well, so after they go to the store and they find that stuff, and the son says, well, this is Ed Gein, and they find the receipt, so Ed was the last customer. Law enforcement decides, well, they're going to go talk to Ed. So they go to the house. Ed's not home. So Ed was actually at the neighbor's house. He was actually having dinner with the neighbors, which is something that was actually pretty common for him to do with this one particular neighbor anyway. He was known to kind of hang out over there and maybe eat there once in a while. So they go to the neighbor's house, and sure enough, Ed was there. He was actually out in the car getting ready to take that neighbor into town because the neighbor had already heard that something had happened to Bernice and wanted to go to town and check it out. So the law enforcement officer went up, told Ed, hey, I need to talk to you. They get into the patrol car, and the first thing Ed says is they're trying to frame me. And the law enforcement officer says, for what? He goes, well, for killing Bernice. And the law enforcement officer responds, well, how do you know she's dead? And he goes, well, that's just what I heard.
See, I didn't get that at all. Okay.
So,
because he took them to her.
No. So law enforcement in the meantime.
We got got two separate situations here. Because, anyway, go ahead.
No, so law enforcement still on the property.
That's what they portrayed in Netflix, or that's what you saw on the documentary somewhere?
On the documentary, they ended up asking him about Bernice, and he said, well, yeah, she's in my barn. And they actually went to the barn then and found her body hanging.
See, in all the articles that I read, that law enforcement was still at the house searching, and the doors were locked. And so they went to the barn. Of course, remember, they don't have electricity. And this is in the evening.
Yeah, that could be. So, I don't know which one is correct or which one isn't. So, you have to take, again, with a grain of salt to see what happened.
Regardless, how they found her was a fact either way.
Yeah.
Now, according to what I heard, that they were in the barn, one of the officers felt something kind of brush up against him, and when he just turned around, there was Bernice hanging from the ceiling about like a deer would be. So hanging by her ankles.
Except they didn't know it was Bernice because
She was decapitated.
She had no head.
so they didn't quite know it was Bernice.
No, but it was a pretty fresh body. And what it was is they said that she was hanging from about like you would hang a deer where a stick was poked,
There's a crossbar.
a crossbar between her legs. And
Her
they said it was
ankles,
about
yeah.
3
If
feet.
you look at that TikTok, that's an actual picture of it.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of
Yeah.
it. And so she's upside down, hanging with her feet spread with a bar or a stick in between them. The stick pierces through like by her Achilles tendon on one foot, but the other leg apparently wasn't cut right or something, or it cut through the tendon. And so the leg was actually kind of then tied at that point. But then her arms were also tied and pulled upward towards the same bar. And then she was also gutted. Mm-hmm. And then her vagina and anus was missing. Mm-hmm. But I can't imagine being a law enforcement officer walking and seeing that. I mean,
Yeah.
I would be creeped the fuck out. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I would probably be backing out like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Because at that time, according to the book, Ed wasn't there. So if it was me, I've been in a situation where you walk in and you find a body. Your reaction, at least mine, was, is anybody here? Is whoever did this watching me? And time to kind of back out and reassess what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. But anyways, they find Bernice. Don't know it's Bernice quite yet. And so they're going to search the rest of the house.
Yeah.
And I made a list of what they found.
Yeah.
And it is effed up.
Uh-huh.
I got a list too, so we can compare.
So,
Okay.
yeah. So I guess before we get into the list, he doesn't really give a reason why he is using these body parts and pieces of skin. I don't think he really admits to why.
No, and actually he doesn't, at least in the research and the reading I did, he never admitted to anything until he was caught. Because they had apparently asked him about...
Well, I'm at least... I mean... He kind of admitted to it because he had said Bernice is hanging. Like he told the townspeople when they were talking about her being missing. He literally said, "Well, she's in my."
Well, no, I guess it wasn't Bernice. I think you're right. It was Mary
was
Hogan.
one of 'em.
Because
it was one of them.
Bernice was found the day that she came up missing.
Okay.
Mary
'Cause I'm
Hogan
like,
is the one that...
He admitted it, but there was not necessarily he wasn't a suspect yet. So that's what I mean is this whole thing is just bizarre. And how I don't know that he said he was framed. Like, because to me, that doesn't track with what his interviews were, because he was just very matter of fact and saying it bluntly and admitted to everything. So it doesn't track that he had this mindset of being deceitful, because I don't think he lied about stuff.
One of the things though in his interviews is he could never remember actually committing the actual crime.
Right, because of this,
this
mental illness. I don't think he was deceitful. So to me, to say he was framed, I just don't think he did that.
I don't know.
It doesn't track with what he really admitted to.
A person, I guess, would have to find the actual police report to see if that is.
Yeah, it's on that.
True.
I had to actually pay a subscription to MGM Plus to watch it. I can't remember. It's either the real story of Ed Gein or the lost tapes of Ed Gein. There's two of them.
Yeah, I've seen the lost tapes. They got that on
it's
YouTube.
The real story of Ed Gein is what it is.
That could be.
And it actually shows in those clips. It shows their typed out police reports, and yeah, it's.
That's typically what I like to find and see, but I ended up spending
should have.
I think it was
I should have sent it to you
about 12
because
hours on a book.
yeah, I should have sent it to you because then it had a lot of his audio taped interview and how he would answer questions. And so you kind of got to really understand kind of what his psyche was, I feel like.
And for the record, he did not sound like he did on the documentary.
No.
Or on the
No,
Netflix.
no. I'm going to be real. I'm going to probably make a lot of people mad.
What?
He sounded like a typical Wisconsin Minnesota. Do you
Sure.
remember Stephen Avery?
Yes.
That's what he sounded like.
Yeah. So he probably sounded
in more
simple.
but more simple terms, more simple.
Sure.
He sounded like a typical 1950s Polish farmer.
I could see that.
You know, by gotcha, yeah. Should by goddamn, yeah. I did that by goddamn, yeah.
This might sound bad, but I'm kind of excited to get into what they find in the house because
I've been purposely
it's
building anticipation of what.
it is. I still, it's one thing when you're a law enforcement officer, you walk into that barn and you see the body hanging like that. I mean, that would be just freaky. I mean, I couldn't describe on how a person might feel. I might even run. I don't even know. But
Let's hear it.
yeah, so they get into the house and they find soup bowls made from human skulls. They find complete skulls. So something else that some townspeople had said earlier, at least talked around town, is that they made fun of Ed for having shrunken heads. So I don't know. And one of these kids said that they actually seen some over at Ed's house. And that he said that he had got them from some relative in Africa or something to that effect that had sent it to him. But when they go into the house, they do find complete skulls and complete heads. They found 4 chairs that the seats were made from human skin, bracelets made from human parts, a wastebasket made from human skin, a tom-tom.
Because why wouldn't you make a tom-tom?
Well, you kind of have to.
I mean,
My favorite, the belt of female nipples. What's a shade pole?
Like the drawstring
The draw-
thing.
Okay. But they were decorated with female lips.
oh, geez.
Yeah. A shoebox with 9 labias. So some of the labias, I guess, were decorated.
Yeah, he bejazzled them.
Yes. Because, I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, he talked about that in his interview.
And they also found, and I had to look this word up, they listed it as a mons veneris. I don't know what that is. I had to look it up. I still didn't even understand after I read the definition. But basically, it was a vagina with the skin in between and the anus all in one piece. And it was salted.
To preserve it.
Yes, because this is the one.
Not to eat, to preserve.
This is the one that come off of the body that was currently hanging out in the shed.
Yeah.
They found a box with 4 human noses, like an oats. What's the oat cereal?
Quaker.
Quaker oats. Like they used to have them round cardboard containers,
They're still around.
and it had, let's see, pieces of human head, leggings made from human legs, and then they found like an upper garment. What would you call that? Like a vest or whatever.
Corset.
Yeah, made from a human torso. They found 9 human face masks. Some of them still had lipstick on them. I don't know if he put the lipstick there or if it's how he found them. They found a bag that contained Mary Hogan's head.
Yes.
So
Yeah, it was in a container. There's a picture of it.
and then the one of the last things they found is they were kind of digging around between a mattress, and they found a sack. And in the sack was a warm human head, and that happened to be Bernice's. So I think that's probably when they knew they'd found Bernice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in the interviews, I mean, he admits he would rob fresh graves just because they were easier to get into.
Sure. And I think there was 9 of those, I think is what he'd said he had done.
And then also because I'm sure of the decomposition, which he said they were embalmed, because they were embalmed, they didn't decompose as badly. So he used the body, he used the parts, he used the skin. They asked him what the purpose was. He doesn't really explain. They asked if it was, did you want to become a woman? He said, no, not really. No, not particularly. They asked him about the vulvas, and why did you have so many? Did you want to transform to a woman? No. What was your fascination with them? I don't really know. I can't tell you. And then he asked why one was painted, because some were painted. He's like, I don't know, just to preserve them. He didn't really have an explanation, but he denies wanting to become a woman. So...
I'm not saying that he had these parts because he wanted himself to become a woman. I do think that he probably had a curiosity about the female anatomy.
I think he was fascinated with the female anatomy. I don't think, he had full bodysuits, which, again, we mentioned horror movies that are coming off of Ed Gein's story, which one was Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and a newer one from the 90s, Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, yeah.
Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. He was making a human suit. That was the preface of that story. But, it doesn't really admit to wanting to transform to a woman. We don't really know. And I think, again, that has to do with his mental illness and his schizophrenia, whether he was hearing voices or we don't know. Maybe he had multiple personality disorder.
And
because
maybe
I think that's what ultimately they were leaning towards, is why he couldn't remember and had these lapses of memory, is because maybe he had personality disorder. Multiple personality disorder. Or what do they call it now? I don't even know what they call it now.
I couldn't tell you.
There's a different name to it, but anyway, I think that's kind of where they're leaning. And to why he's so matter of fact and answering these questions he had no emotion with answering them.
He did say that he went to these grave sites 40 times. However, he only exhumed bodies 9 times. And I think in one of the interviews, he said that at some point while he was out at the cemetery, sometimes he would snap out of whatever trance he was in, realize what he was doing, where he was at, and then he would just run home.
Yeah. So it's just,
It would be hard to understand.
I think there's
somebody's
no
thinking.
Real sadistic side to it. I think he was mentally ill, and whatever he was experiencing was telling him to do this. It's just weird. And he never actually went to prison.
No.
He went to a mental institution.
It's called dissociative identity disorder.
Thank you.
Did.
I knew it was called something different now.
Yeah, he pled insanity, and I think he was...
Well, I mean, from his psychological reviews, they claimed him insane. Yeah,
and they kind of went over that in the book a little bit, and they spent 30 days doing it, and the doctors came back and said, no. I mean, this guy he has a good vocabulary, but whether or not he truly understands right from wrong would be up for debate. And he probably doesn't, at least based on however he answered those questions. And, of course, his actions.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. like the way he sounded in the interview was literally matter of fact. Like there was no, it was odd. You could clearly tell this man did not have an intention of going and killing somebody. It just either happened or I don't know. And he didn't have any remorse because he didn't remember doing it.
Although so here's one thing I would struggle with. He doesn't remember doing it, but his house is full of it. And he did have.
But I think this is again my opinion of my perspective of it, I guess. It's like you would use a carcass. Like if you have a dead carcass and you're like, okay, I guess I gotta use the parts, and you're gonna say like the way the Indians used the buffalo. They used everything. And this is how I feel like to justify it is, he's like, well, I got these dead parts around here. I just as well use them, and I'm not going to admit to it because, I mean, he doesn't remember doing any of it, and he's like, well, how'd that get here?
Well, I don't know. I just can't imagine opening a box one day and going, wait a minute, where did this box of vaginas come from?
Why do I have nipples on my belt?
I don't know. I mean,
But it is cool, so I'm wearing it.
I don't know. Like, why do you make leggings out of skin? I don't know. Like, there's something in his brain that's maybe a little primitive.
Well, I don't
know.
How do you understand a brain like that?
Yeah. And clearly he had to be in this psychosis more often than he was not. You know what I mean? Like, he had to be in this delusional state of mind to live like that more so than being a normal person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think that maybe he was like that a little bit all the time?
Yes, I do. I feel like he probably was like that all the time. And I feel like what's her bucket? His mom, Augusta kept that at bay.
You know, one thing,
maybe that's why they were so close. You know, maybe Augusta hid that from the world.
It could have been.
Know. Or who knows? Maybe her dying triggered this psychosis in him. We'll never know.
Well,
I don't know.
And I think that could be true because you're talking about a guy who's really his only friend in the world is his mother. Mm-hmm. And once he doesn't have that, and I think he's smart enough to understand that people in town are making fun of him. And I think he's maybe a little resentful.
Yeah. I mean, let's not sugarcoat it. I am not defending this man whatsoever.
Oh, no, not at all.
But I'm just trying to.
Well, I think everybody is interested by what goes on and how that type of a mind works.
Yeah.
It's not that you condone it or appreciate it or anything like that. It's just like, it's so different than how you or I, at least I hope so, think.
Because it is true. It's like, you feel like, okay, is he doing this stuff because he's got no electricity. He's got no source of heat. He's trying to think, how am I I don't know. It's like your mind makes stuff up and why a person would do this. And I feel like some of those people that were in that documentary kind of stating the facts, maybe they weren't facts. They were obviously interpreting what they thought why Ed was doing this, which I feel like probably some of this author did in your book too. I
think you have to.
Yeah, because I don't know if you can really clearly get what he was thinking, because he just, either he doesn't know, he doesn't answer, or he's...
Did you see the pictures of the inside of his house?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So they tried to describe it in the book, but I had to actually look up the pictures to see just how bad it was. And holy shit.
But one thing that was clean was his mom's room.
He boarded off that side of the house that had her room and her area. And they said when they took them boards down, it was dusty and musty, but other than that, pristine.
Yeah, and pretty much preserved the way it was when she died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just thinking about opening boxes and finding noses and.
But the one thing that they portrayed in the series was that he had a girlfriend, and he never had a girlfriend.
No, I don't think he ever did.
I mean, he did have a friend that would talk to him, but it was never. And now I think that where this series is going is to where he was thinking in his own mind that this is my girlfriend, like what his own mind is telling him. I think that's where that went in that whole series, But
I think they have to make it somewhat entertaining.
Sure, and they did.
And there's things that happen in a person's life, and it doesn't matter what documentary or TV show. They don't know what, like they would say, well, when he was in his house, he would, like in this book, he would sit on the bed and, he would read his magazines on like Nazis, which he had, cannibalism, murder type, almost like true crime stuff, but they were magazines. But how would you know that he, would sit on his bed and have these visions or fantasies? You don't know. You're not a mind reader, and you weren't there to see it. So,
and they did ask him about, which, you have to speculate because of his fascination with these magazines and whatnot that had a lot to do with murder and, whatever, sadistic things. That's why he did the things he did. Was he trying to emulate some of those things and that he saw in the magazine? Was he who knows? We don't really know. He doesn't admit to it. He talks about it in his interviews, but he doesn't really say why, like if that was the reason.
I don't know. I just think everybody probably, especially if you're someone like Ed, you've got no friends, nobody to hang out with, so you develop your own hobbies, and maybe that was his hobby.
Yeah. And didn't really, I don't know.
I just like to make things.
He didn't really, and it's weird because he grew up reading the Bible. There's no really, I don't want to say remorse, but there's no morality in his thought process of, I shouldn't be doing this, except for the fact that he said he couldn't dig up his mother. He knew that was wrong.
Sure.
So it's just, clearly he was a sick
I don't know either.
man.
I just think there's some things you just don't know. And that's probably why they're interesting.
Yeah, I don't think we'll know. And because of the fact that he is mentally ill, we don't know you don't really know if he's telling the truth or not. It's just, the whole thing is fascinating. Listening to those was fascinating. They'd ask him questions like, so you would do this, 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 and this. That's right. So you would do this, this, and this. That's right. Like he was very just blunt, matter of fact. Like just saying nonchalantly, yep. And not going into a lot of explanation. It's just very simple. Well, I don't know. Why, well, what was the reason you kept all the vulvas? Well, I don't know. Well, I didn't really think about it. Just.
I don't know. There's some things you'll probably never know.
Well, not with that one.
No. So
the thing is going inside of the mind of a serial killer is, I don't know. Because honestly, even if you talking to like all the tapes that we have, Jeffrey Dahmer tapes, the John Wayne Gacy tapes, the Ted Bundy tapes, like we have interviews with all of those serial killers now. Do we know if they're telling us the truth or not? I mean, who knows? You'll never know if they're trying to be manipulative or not.
I just, I think because you can't read somebody's mind, everybody probably considers how they think.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
And so when they're trying to figure out how somebody else thinks, they're comparing that to how they think.
Yeah.
So
that bias is always going to come in. You're always going to get your own personal perspective on it. which
Just like I don't understand Marissa and Hallmark movies.
It's a mystery to be solved.
Oh boy. But
yeah, well, I'm sorry you didn't get through that series. It was
I probably will, but
you have to take it with a grain of salt, and you have to look at it from like an artistic point of view, because they go back and forth to where these more modern movies were geared after his life. So they talked about Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock. They talked about, I shouldn't say talked about, they showed Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Leatherface, and that was to emulate Ed in his house and how he lived and whatnot. And then the last one was Silence of the Lambs, and how Buffalo Bill was trying to transform into a woman and make a skin suit.
you know, one thing I will say is maybe after you go through like the life of Ed Gein, and then maybe you watch these these movies that were inspired by the true events, and then maybe it makes more sense.
It did. Well, I had never watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Never in my life.
How was the acting?
Horrible. Horrible. I'm like, it was so bad. It was so bad. I'm like, oh my gosh, we've come so far. It was 1978, I believe, is when that movie came out.
Yeah, the only good acting in 1978 was Star Wars.
I thought you were going to say porn.
Maybe that too. No, that's probably,
I wouldn't know.
That's probably
I
awful
wouldn't
as
know.
well.
I wouldn't know. But yeah, it was real bad. But anyway, now Psycho is a classic, and that was like the first horror movie that dealt with that was a psychological thriller. That it wasn't just a flat out, gruesome, kill somebody slasher type movie. It was more psychological, and that's what made it terrifying to people.
Well, it was Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah,
Everything he did was
he's a legend. I mean, you can't compare now when you go back and watch this, but in the time,
No, I mean, I go back and watch movies that I used to watch and thought were awesome, and then you go back and watch and you're like, God, this is so dumb.
Oh gosh,
Except Goonies.
I was at one of the volleyball tournaments, and we were talking about one of our first scary movies, and I said, I remember as a kid watching Alligator and being scared of it, and being scared that I'd sit down on the toilet and have this alligator bite my butt. But the friends I was talking to were like, I've never heard of that movie. I'm like, really? Never heard of Alligator? No. I was telling them about it. I'm like, I was young, real young. My parents had a satellite dish, and so you'd move the satellite and you'd get to the HBO, and it would stay on HBO, and so you'd pretty much just watch all the movies. That's how I got to watch Poltergeist and all of those. But it's funny, they said yesterday, at the volleyball game, hey, so we were reminiscing and trying to find a scary movie to watch on Halloween, and by God, there was Alligator.
It was on?
So we watched it. No, well, they found it.
Oh, I see.
They're like, that was the worst movie in the entire world. I said, I didn't say it was good. I was like 6 and being scared of an alligator.
So the one that scared me as a kid, other than Poltergeist, and I can't remember if it was called Worms or if it was called Squirm, but it was Killer Worms, Killer Night Crawlers. And I will tell you, when I was a kid, after I watched that movie, I would not bait my own hook. I wasn't touching those sons of bitches. It might bite me. It would bite them, and then it would burrow themselves into their bodies and then eat them from the inside out. So, yeah. But
oh, yeah.
Anyways.
I remember I'm not going to the bathroom in the dark because there's going to be an alligator in the toilet going to bite me.
And I wasn't baiting my own hook.
Yep.
So, well, you got anything else?
Nope.
That's all I got.
That's all on Mr. Gein.
All right. Well, we'll catch you next time.
All right. Bye-bye. Bye.
Don't talk back, let you wanna talk. Don't talk back, let you let you wanna